Hi, I'm David Stoker, and I want to welcome you to the Better Life in Recovery #Hope Dealer Movement podcast. As a visible and vocal member of the recovery community since 2009, I'm frequently asked questions and for advice from people all the time. Some are curious, some are still using, some are in recovery, and some people just care about somebody who's currently struggling with a hurt habit or hang-up. If people in my community have those questions, I guarantee that people everywhere are looking for answers as well. We started this podcast to give you answers and support, because not only is recovery real, it is amazing. Hope you enjoy the show. So Ryan, we're sitting down with you to ask you 10 questions that people polled and said, hey, if I were to talk to somebody in long-term recovery, here's the things I'd want to know. And that first question is, why did you start to use, what's the reason that you started using to begin with?
Yeah, for me, my drug of choice was opioids, and it actually happened after a hiking accident in 2003. I left the White House and started a new job with a political committee, and went hiking with my roommate and best friend at the time. Fell, injured my ankle, injured my knee, ended up in the care of an urgent care physician, and this was in 2003, and they prescribed me a high-grade opioid, hydromorphone, basically a form of morphine. And I was supposed to get that, knee and ankle checked out. I never did, but what I did go back and get instead of an MRI was another prescription and another prescription. And really, the nexus of my story is, if you know anything about the opioid crisis in this country, you'll know that before we had an opioid crisis, we had a pill crisis,
right?
A pill mill crisis. And I ended up moving back to Florida, which is where I was from, after that injury. And I got caught up in the pill mills and unscrupulous doctors really, really bad. And that's what kind of led me down this downward spiral that ultimately, after multiple overdoses, left me homeless and broke and helpless and searching for help on the streets of Los Angeles in 2014.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's part of your story I hadn't really heard, was kind of the overdoses and everything else. I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah.
So what was it that made you decide to stop?
This is a simple answer, actually. There was no white light moment for me. Honestly, it was, subscribing to the whole idea around hitting rock bottom and whatnot is difficult for me, because all I wanted was a meal and a roof over my head that night. And I was willing to do whatever I needed to get that. But I didn't want to stop using. I just was looking to get some shelter for a week or two and kind of recharge my batteries and then go back out and figure out how I could keep using. And just that desire to get a meal and a roof over my head, got me into a place that ultimately led to where I'm at today. So I would say that for anybody out there that thinks that family members or friends or whatnot have got to hit rock bottom, they've got to have all this willingness to be able to succeed, that wasn't my case. I had very little willingness in the beginning. It was just the need to be connected to something, have a safe place to sleep for the night, and get a bite to eat.
Yeah, I wasn't rock bottom either.
Yeah.
I hit tons of bottoms, but when I recovered, I was probably more on a peak. Mm-hmm. So I hate that. And I also hate the whole tough love thing. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about, stepping into recovery last time we talked. So what does recovery mean to you?
Recovery means that I'm able to all in all be a good person. It means that I'm able to think about others before I think about myself. But it's also that I'm able to be honest. I'm able to build and sustain healthy relationships today. I'm able to be independent, and I'm not isolated anymore.
Right.
And I think from those few key principles for me, everything else flourishes. These were things that I didn't really understand early in recovery. I thought recovery was all about just being quote unquote clean and sober. And that was what was the most important thing was. That is an important thing.
Right.
Because like if I was using, I wouldn't be able to do those other things. But if that's all I am is abstinent and not using, I could still run my life into the ground.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's a pretty low bar just being
Yeah.
abstinent, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, recovery is about passion. It's about purpose. It's about love. It's about family, community. Um, it's about and for me, it's just brought me to places that I never thought were even. I am amazed on the daily at where I'm at, and where I see others where
Right.
they're at, just by doing a few simple things in their life.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. People talk about recovery is about getting your life back. I didn't get my life back. I didn't want my life back.
Yeah.
I built a life I never could have imagined.
Yeah, I think too that like for a lot of us who are in recovery, like at the core, it's like an onion. Like I think that we always were. I think every single person in recovery has some sort of, creativity and purpose and passion, and there is that thing in them that always was. It just took layers and layers and layers of peeling back to get to that original state. Because I don't think that we were bad people and now we're good people. I think that we just weren't, we weren't fed.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like we had to be, I believe that where we are in recovery is what our natural state is.
Right.
And supposed to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of us developed walls.
Yeah.
Because the people that were supposed to care about us
Right.
maybe weren't there, whether it was abuse or
Right.
it was neglect. You know, those people. So I think a lot of times we built up walls. So we even added more layers,
Yep.
To what was
Right.
already there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, really,
Yep.
with the onion. I like that. So what were the things that got you into recovery to begin with?
Housing. I attribute 100% of my recovery journey to recovery housing. The day I stepped out of treatment, I had no place to go. Recovery house took me in with no money, helped me find a job, helped me get back on my feet, plugged me in with a peer network of other men in recovery who I became very good friends with. And worked with, and they're like my family.
Right.
Without that house, without those peers, without those supports, that first year and a half, no way I would have made it. So that's why recovery housing in particular has become like a big touch point of my work and advocacy, because I think that it has been just really brushed aside a lot. But what got me into my kind of definition of recovery and sustain it was recovery housing.
So are you a fan of, like, I'm a big fan of NAR. I'm a big fan of at least having
NAR. I work with
standards.
NAR a lot. Yeah, no. I've done a lot. So NAR, when I lost my first sponsee to an overdose two and a half years ago, I went to my member of Congress's office and literally staged a sit-in and got the Access to Quality Sober Living Act written with her, which was HR 4684, which became part of the Support Act that the president signed into law last year, which basically published the NAR standards from SAMHSA would publish them and provide $2 million in technical assistance funding to the states to get these standards put into place. Right. So I'm a big fan of the NAR standards, big fan of standardizing those particular to each state's needs.
Right.
There is a good way to do recovery housing, and there is a bad way to do recovery housing. Sadly, I think I think we're getting to more of a balance now, but it should be all good recovery housing.
Right.
People shouldn't have to question whether or not they're walking into a good or bad house, because by pure luck, I got into a good house. My friend, Tyler wasn't as lucky as me, and he died as a result of being in a bad house.
I know you were big on getting Narcan into the recovery residences in California too.
Yep.
So in early recovery, what was it that helped you maintain your sobriety the most? Like, is there a couple things you could look at and be like,
meetings and music?
Okay.
That was it. Meetings constantly, every single day, sticking with my peers, just always not being alone, making, because I used to find myself isolating and getting into my head, and that's when things would get a little crazy for me. And I say music because music was my meditation and still is to this day. Like it's like I have a lot of spiritual practices. Music is one of them.
Yeah, I've seen you rub some elbows with some pretty interesting people that are pretty well known musically. It's
Well,
it's
they're
pretty
recovery peeps too. Yeah.
It's pretty neat to see all of these people starting to come out, like Macklemore, who lost a friend to an overdose, or what is his name, Brand. Elton John, Russell Brand. I mean, there's so many people out there that are very vocal about their recovery, and now we need it to play down, I think, to the everyday people.
Yeah, and it's happening. It's happening.
It is. I'm amazed at where it is today. So what's the most important thing that you've done for your recovery?
In terms of most important thing I've done for my recovery, done in my recovery, or
like if I think about the most important thing that I've done for my recovery, I would say engaging in pro-social activities and then making them available to more and more people. For me, that is like...
So the most important thing that I've done for my recovery is I've been able to be a better son for my mom. My mom's like, she's had a really rough time the last couple of years. And I think at the end of my use, she just turned 70, or she's turning 72 years old in November. She was really, really close to like dying, I think, at the end of my use, just as a result of dealing with all the craziness. And those 10 years of using took a toll on her. But, she's dealt with a stage 4 tumor, since in the last year, and just so much has been going on. But just being able to be there for her, and being able to like get on the phone and talk to her every other day and just be present, has probably been the most important thing that I've done for my recovery. I mean, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I do, but like really where it matters is, family and my mom, and I just got engaged, and that,
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. But that's the stuff that's like really important for me, because I also realize that like while I'm out there doing all this advocacy, and I wrote this book and TV and all this other stuff, like all that could be gone tomorrow.
Right.
And it will, like, those things don't last,
I think you're building a legacy. Don't downplay at all the fact that I think you are going to help build, you stand on the shoulders of people, the work other people have done. And someday there's going to be tons of people in this country that are standing on your shoulders because of the foundation and groundwork that you've done.
I hope so. But I think that, even with all that being said, like as someone who's in recovery and understands like where I have been, what I have gone through, and how quickly things can change just in life. The most important thing for me is to be grounded where, while I want to continue doing all that work, and I will continue doing all that, and hopefully it continues to grow and gets bigger, and we're helping more people and building more leaders. I have to keep that family piece most important to me, because that's it, man. That's what, like, the end of the day, the people that, that's where my heart is. So,
well, that's awesome. And it's awesome to have those people in your life. I can't imagine, I bet your mom's super, super proud.
She is. I'm going to see her next weekend. I'm really excited about it.
So is there one thing you do every day that helps you maintain your recovery?
Yes, I still go to a lot of meetings. I talk to 2 or 3 recovery people every single day. I know that I do not isolate. I'm like a serial non-isolator, because even with everything in my community and meetings and networks, like if I'm, isolating and I'm home by myself all day long and just working, like I'll get into bad headspace. But I have almost a religious practice. I wake up in the morning, I listen to about an hour of music, come outside. It's always outside. That gets my day going. I end my day like that, usually right after a meeting. And I also have a 5-year-old, Pit, who's the sweetest dog in the world. That is also a huge part of my recovery.
I see some really cute pictures.
Yeah, Dollar's a big part of my recovery. Right. I mean, my dog is, being able to learn how to care for him early on, was a big indicator of like what direction I was going to go in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is it that keeps you from going back to those old behaviors?
I think we hear a lot about recovery capital. I think that I finally got to a point, after year one, I was still like, oh man, I still want to get high some days.
Right.
After year two, I was like, gosh, there's those days where I could really, just zone out, and I don't want to do heroin, but maybe a drink, and then after year three, I was like, wow, there's more to life than just like partying or zoning out and numbing the pain. And then at year four, it was just like, oh my gosh, like I like they're like, life is better. Like, I think in the beginning there was that pink cloud of like, I'm sober, you know what I mean? And like everything looks pink. But then after some time and like process and rebuilding relationships and finding your purpose and your place in this world and your passion and working hard for something you believe in, and putting in work, not just in advocacy, but in your own recovery. And you realize that life actually, it's not a concept anymore. Like, it was always a concept for me because I tried to get sober many times and failed. Right. It's always a concept that, keep coming back, don't leave before the miracle happens, like all that stuff. And you're like, you repeat it, sounds nice, but it was like a concept to me. It's really true. I mean, and that's like, and like, as you build that recovery capital, like I have, and I can't, hopefully, I just keep adding to that toolbox. It outweighs the using. It outweighs the way I used to live, and sometimes I haven't had I've probably had a couple of thoughts on like, I wonder what heroin feels like these days. Like, not like obsession, but I mean, in the last couple of years, it's hit me, not of like wanting to use, but I've thought of like, mostly it's like, I can't believe I haven't, my disease comes in the form of this now. It's like, I can't believe I haven't thought about getting high in this long. And then at that moment, I'm
now
thinking, now there's a seed, right? But that's, but I can recognize that. But recovery capital, I would say, at the end of the day, recovery capital. I mean, the fact that I am paying my taxes, the fact that I'm a registered voter, the fact that I wrote a book, the fact that I'm about to get married, that I have my family back, that I'm sustainable in terms of and employable, and do what I do, and helping others, in my own personal recovery community. Like, that stuff is nothing short of a miracle.
Right.
It is a miracle. And I see it happen with other people too. Yeah. I mean, you've got longer than me. So, I mean, what do you, I want to know this 10th question. I want to I want to kick that back to you, because I'd like to hear what you think of that.
It dumbfounds people sometimes when I look at them and say, you know what, I will never use again.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, there's no way you can know that. And I'm like, I know that as sure as I know that I wouldn't go out and strangle my kid.
Right.
For every reason you've mentioned, I look at all of the things that I have in my life now, and the knowledge that if I were to go back out and use, I would lose everything.
Right.
I would lose my job, visits with my kids. I would lose my wife. I would lose, anything and everything that's important, because I can relate to that spiritual goal. My biggest spiritual goal when I first got sober was for my word to mean something again to the people I cared about, like my baby sister and people like that had always been there. Yeah. So for me, that was huge. And knowing that it could all be wiped out instantly makes me cherish every single thing that I have. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, I could have a car accident, come out of a coma on a morphine drip like I got started on. Something like that could happen. But outside of that, I would never willingly do something that would jeopardize every single thing that I've built up. Love the life I have now. We got 2 more questions. They talk about the gifts of recovery. What has changed in your life since you stopped using?
Everything.
Great answer. He's like, done. Yeah. Bam.
Everything.
Mic drop.
Yeah. I mean, that's the answer. Everything. Everything. I'm a completely different person.
That's awesome. Yeah. Best answer, and we can move on to 10. If you could travel back in time and talk to yourself the day before you used, what would you say to yourself?
Ask for help. I was so afraid to ask for help.
Just because of what other people might think, or?
Yeah. I was afraid of what everybody else would think. And what I didn't realize was they all wanted me to ask, to call that question, but nobody had the guts to. It was like a game of chicken.
Right.
I would have asked for help a lot sooner. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ryan, I appreciate your time. I know you've got stuff to do, man.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, that's amazing
I
life
love
that
this.
you've built, because
Thanks for having
everything
me
in your
on.
life has changed.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you I think listeners are really going to like this, because this is a little piece of Ryan Hampton that I haven't heard before.
Oh, cool.
I haven't heard you sit down and answer some of those questions and talk about some of those things, because generally what I hear you talking about is what needs to change in the system, not what you changed in your life so that you could be a change agent today.
That was fun.
So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, my man.
Yep. In closing, I just want to thank you for listening to the podcast. Please join us every week for new episodes. If you want to connect with us further, if you have any questions, topics you'd like to hear in the future, or maybe would like to be on the podcast sometime, you can connect with us at betterlifeandrecovery.com. There's a Better Life and Recovery page on Facebook, or you can, we're on Twitter, BLIR_NPO. Also, this podcast is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about the network at studiodna.media. Thanks a lot. Y'all have a great week.